Hey, hey.
What's up, Papa Ryan?
Oh, not much, not much. Just I'm sitting in like our guest room
Yeah,
because my office has been commandeered to become the
nursery.
nursery. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is recording right now. I hope it is. I used a different piece of software for some other interviews, like through Skype, but I didn't know if you had Skype, so I didn't was for my assignment. So I was like, well, I know he has FaceTime, so I figured out how to record audio and video through this, and I've been doing this for all semester because it's a lot easier than like going and meeting with someone and trying to set up a camera and mic us and all that. So I just doing this because it's the camera's there, it's automatic. So
So,
doing that.
do you
I'm,
need me to get better light or
you're
anything?
good. You're so good. You look good. You sound good. You got a better looking beard than I do right now.
Look at that.
I Man, I had made a terrible mistake. I took my contacts out. I thought the guard. I buzzed my head. I thought the guard was still on, and I went to trim, and I just went brrrr, and that was like at
Uh,
midnight. Jess was already asleep. Everyone was in town for Easter. Jess's twin and everything, and so I came out like the next morning, and everyone was just like, "Whoa, who who are you?" So it's been awkward. My kids call me Pastor Goodbeard, so and they're on spring break right now. So next week they're gonna be pretty heartbroken, I think. But
oh, that's funny.
that's good. So
Hey, y'all, out of Ryan.
oh yeah, who's all there? I turn my head like I can see him.
See
Hey,
that?
oh look at everybody.
That's Hadley.
I see Hadley. How you doing, sweetie pea? Good. Hey, how was gymnastics with everyone today? Good.
Go
Good.
get
Good.
your
Good. Good.
medals.
Awesome.
He's
Well, hey.
gonna go get medals to show you.
That's awesome.
All right, bring him over here. All right, this is the other member of the family.
Oh, you guys got a new cat?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You got three? Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, no.
dang. You guys swept the competition.
Well, she did. She had an okay day. Not
Okay.
all, but she had a pretty good day.
That's a
She
good
had
day.
One of them looks like the Olympic medal, except it's smaller.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it every day. That's cool. That's cool. Very
okay,
cool.
right. Thanks, girls.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
hey. Uh,
bet I think, and Wade's at the prom.
oh, it's tonight. I heard
Yeah.
he got. I heard either a junior asked him or he asked a junior.
No, she asked him.
Ooh, a drum major, right?
Yeah, is she drum major? Yes.
Oh man, you gotta send me pictures. That's all I'm saying.
Send
You
you a
gotta send me
picture.
pictures.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I want to take the next 5, 10, max 15 minutes and talk to you a little bit about discipleship. And so this class, like, I think I've said this in every interview. So either my professor's gonna laugh and change the name of the course, or just dock my grade super hard. Cause I thought going into it with like the name Nurturing Ministries, I was like, okay, it's gonna be about like children's ministries or like funeral homes. Like I thought that was, and it's all about discipleship. It's all about Christian education, which is awesome because that's what I really wanted it to be anyway. And I had to do a couple interviews, and I did kind of this. Uh, I don't want to call him a big wig, but he's like the youth director over the entire district of Washington, and and I and I thought, well, I wanted to do a pastor, not just a guy who sits in an office and helps pastors. He does an amazing job at what he does, but I wanted to get someone who's in that role now, and I couldn't have think anyone who's sharper than attack than you, Mr. M. Div from Duke. And so just for my assignment purposes, you are Pastor Curtis House. You have an MDiv from Duke University. You're the pastor at Harvest Christian Fellowship at Amarillo, Texas. And
Me.
that's you. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of it sounds good.
Sounds good? Okay.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit. So I've been reading a lot of books And one thing that's really stuck with me over a lot of them has been, can you help me real quick go over how do you transition from perhaps someone who is um, a a um, a consumer mentality. They come to the church. They're wanting a service. They pay their tithe so that way you can preach and that they feel better. How do you go from that to making them, in essence, a disciple? How do you transition from that consumer mentality to discipleship mentality? How would you go about doing something like that? I lined that question up for you like first day of semester when I read that book.
I think it's a great question. I think I would probably my first step would be to develop a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Outside of relationship, it's very difficult to do anything with them. But my first priority would be to make and establish some type of relationship. Probably attempt to get to know them on their terms
Yeah.
and on earth, and then from there begin hopefully some type of witnessing with them.
Yeah.
And as you know, the greatest among you will be the servant of all. Of course, at the same juncture, I would probably say I would not only develop a relationship, but I believe that if God puts them in our sphere of influence, then we should influence them to know what His will is, or at least to desire what His will is for their life. So try to, either drop questions or help them with some type of discipleship through a book or through a mentorship program, something like that.
Awesome. Awesome.
If I can't do it as a pastor, I'd probably look to have someone on our staff or have one of our leaders in the church, to do that very thing.
All right. So let's say let's role play this out. Let's say uh, I got a chance to hear you speak over Easter just last week. I'm coming back. I really like worship. This lady named Allison knows how to worship really really well. I like how the team does it. This guy named Curtis, he speaks really well. I'm gonna start coming. Let's fast forward from this last week of Easter to maybe the next 8 weeks. I attend every single Sunday. How and I approach you. Hey, Curtis, I understand that being a disciple is perhaps I'm reading the Great Commission and I see when Jesus tells the disciples, hey, go make disciples, baptize them, and tell them to obey my commands, right? Those are like the two big things, is love God, love people, the commands, and baptize them, and serve others. What tools would you give them for success? Sorry, well, I know that's my checklist. I know it's an infinite checklist. I know they're easy tasks. They're just not very easy to accomplish. What tools can you give someone for success? Let's say, and they're young in their faith. They want to get you developing that relationship.
But I think in that, what we try to do is try to orchestrate the church where it makes disciples. And in order to orchestrate the church where it makes disciples, one of the things that I think is primary is to make sure that what we're teaching is able to be followed up with. So any type of teaching, if they heard me teach on Sunday and they enjoyed the preaching, they're coming back, say Easter Sunday, they're coming back this week, and they're excited, and how are we going to engage that? Well, that's where we go to our life groups, because they'll be able to go through the message again, and hear it again and be able to discuss that message. So that also helps develop relationships. So my next step would be, of course, to get them in some type of life group, or at least to have an invitation to come to a life group. And from there, start developing relationships. Then they go through the messaging. As they go through the messaging, they're hearing the Word of God and hopefully learning how to implement the Word of God. And so those would be probably that's kind of like our critical care. That's where we just first jump in and do something with them. From there, I'd invite them to membership class, a vision class. We're looking right now at putting together, Harvest 101 class.
Oh, wow.
Hear our vision, values, see if that resonates with them. Kind of get away really from the term membership to just this is who we are, and these are our vision and our values. And in order to institute or implement those in someone else, they've got to spend time and see the value in them themselves.
All right, so that's beautiful.
Just a discipleship track in that type of way. Exposure is important. So trying to not just introduce them to one couple, but maybe 3 or 4 couples in our church that would learn their name, that would look for them every Sunday. Because the more exposure they have among people, the more people will know their name and give them an invitation. The most sacred thing a person has is their name in any language,
Yeah.
and so that's just one of those things that we could key off of. And a lot of times on Sunday mornings, if I notice someone's been 2 or 3 times, I may ask someone else who knows their name,
What
their
is their
name?
name? Yeah. That's a
And they
trick
go,
I learned from you. So,
yeah,
hey, what's their name? I did
yeah,
that at the Easter egg hunt so many times. Hey, you keep talking to them. You're holding their baby. What's their name?
yeah,
I actually read. So this semester, I don't know why. It has nothing to do with my class. I think it has everything with me about to be a dad. I've been reading a lot of psychology books, and a lot of psychologists believe that our favorite word is our own name. That releases some of the highest amount of endorphins that our brain can release is when people say our names in a happy way. In a happy way, I can imagine. So, but I'm gonna back up. You were saying about how when you guys are casting vision for those people, tell me what are some must-haves when it comes to casting vision in developing something, whether it be a camp or curriculum or for making new disciples or just helping with like a sermon prep. What are you looking for? Is there a formula you use to really develop discipleship in the vision casting process?
Well, I do think, I don't know that there's a formula outside of Matthew 28:19. I think everybody looks a little bit different
Yeah.
and they do that, but I do
What does it
feel
look
that
like for you?
for me, casting vision, it's kind of that deep and wide
Hmm.
net. So I'm always saying, hey, how can we take the people deeper to where they understand that eventually a mature Christian, it's not so much about them as it is about the next person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Among you will be the servant of all, just like what we were talking about. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's also that net that has to be wide. We're looking for non-believers, maybe new believers, and that type of person. So how do we do that? Well, we're really right now. I'm actually taking the staff through a book called Deep and Wide by Andy Stanley.
Love it.
I don't know.
Have it. It's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are
Well,
you
so
how far along are you in it?
oh, we're quite a ways. We're probably halfway through. So we also do all the workbook stuff at the end, and then we're doing that in every staff meeting. So we've developed our um, Randall Rowdy is what we call him, and
Mm-hmm.
this. But I try to keep the staff. I feel like my first call is to the staff, and so I try to keep the staff kind of on their toes, what to look for, who we're ministering to, who's coming in the doors, and even who's not coming in the doors, and how can we get them in the doors? What are some things, some activities, some initials? So when we cast vision, we're looking at from the initial point of them not being believers or possibly where people are hanging out. Right now, we just went through different places in Amarillo where we're seeing a lot of, uh, well, younger generation X all the way through the millennials, kind of where they're hanging out.
Wow.
And what we're finding out is that several of them on a date night will go 3-4 different places where it
Really?
used to, yeah, like a 40-50 year old, they're more apt to go to one place, get dessert and everything
Does it
else,
get an appetizer, a meal, a dessert, and then go home?
right, and go home. And what we're seeing now is they'll go and have a glass of wine somewhere, then they'll go and have the main meal, then they'll go have dessert someplace else, and that's a really popular thing right now. So we're talking about, okay, so how can we station people in these places, or what can the church do to intersect their path and to make sure that after Saturday night they're at church on Sunday morning
Hmm.
or station. So I think just any type of initial stages that you can put together, but then look at also your long-term plan, a 1, 3, 5 year plan with people.
Not just with like your church or with your staff, but with individual. Would you say
Individual,
individual members of the congregation or your congregation
right?
as a whole?
And I even have a 1, 3, and 6 year plan for all the staff members now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
just trying to get them to think ahead and think of what their ministry would look and what their team members would look like. So we want to involve people in our church that are somewhat new believers all the way to very founded and grounded believers on the teams.
Hmm.
So creating teams in that way, you have the opportunity to hear this new or non-believers say, well, that really doesn't speak to me, or I wouldn't go about it that way. As a matter of fact, that would offend me if you approached me in that way.
Interesting.
All the way to someone who is very grounded in their faith saying, okay, well, once they do come in the door, what does this look like? So I speak to the staff about what are your teams going to look like 1, 3, and 6 years down the road. And by the time you've been here 3 to 6 years, you should have some type of team put together that includes, very new believers all the way to very knowledgeable believers and very discipled people.
That's awesome. So I love what you got. I knew you'd be pure gold. Like I'm just like glued right here. So you were saying I really picked up on, because that happens a lot up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's very liberal. People are very postmodern. I wouldn't even describe it postmodern anymore. That's such a biblical term based off of where people actually are up here. And so we find that not only our churches tend to be, I mean, when you like remove like Judah Smith and Fresh Life, you have Levi Lusko, just kind of eastern side of the mountains. When you remove those really big churches that are well known, that are conference speaking pastors, I've noticed a lot of the churches are significantly smaller than anything I saw in California, growing up in New Mexico, even in Texas, in Amarillo, where there's, the number, it's like 337 churches, 400 churches. Even though there's that many, I would say that the average church in Amarillo could be on the small side, at least twice as big, if not probably realistically more 4 times bigger than the average church in the county I'm in right now. A lot of small churches, if there are any, and so these people get offended very easily. Since we're dealing with a small church, we have a small volunteer base, a small discipleship base, which means I can't rotate people out, right? I can't have an A and B squad on everything, so people are getting burnt out. So tell me some signs you look out for as a leader when one of your leaders start burning out, losing interest, going through a tough time, and how do you deal with that? How do you disciple them and mentor them through that?
Yeah, well, I think giving them a break, even if they it's tough because they leave a gap when they leave. Especially, I've served a small church. When I was in Happy, Texas. And so one of the things that I think that we have to do is look at how are we going to give them a break, and when they get that break, what can we show them with appreciation. So I'm always trying to think, okay, what you want repeated, you need to reward. And as they do things that are really good and they really fill that gap in a great way, and they have procedures to do it, and yet they're getting burned out, then I like to get them some type of gift certificate, write a letter of appreciation. People want to know that they're appreciated for what they do, and then help them in their call. Anytime you can increase their knowledge and give them value in their call and what they're doing, it helps give them incentive to keep doing it. One of the hardest things to do is to keep going when there is no encouragement, when you're underappreciated or not appreciated. And so I found early on with Happy that if I would write them a card or maybe send them some type of I did some silly stuff. Sometimes I put together little gift baskets that had meat in them.
Yeah.
Up here from Keeters and sausage and things like that. And just little gift baskets and stuff just to tell them, hey, we appreciate you and we see what you're doing. And then what I would do is look for somebody to fill the gap maybe for a month or 2 months. And during that time, maybe even invite them over and just try to make sure that we're pouring into them. That's what CORE was originally established for, was to pour into our leaders and to motivate the leaders and to encourage them, to help equip them. So those are the things that I think. I think people are less apt to get burned out if they know they are appreciated. And if we can show them value for what they do and give them value for what they do.
I was reading, I was watching a podcast by Craig Groeschel about motivating your staff and motivating your leaders and showing them appreciation. And he says, I want you to think about all the appreciation you would show them or tell them, whether it's writing a letter or however you're going to communicate it. go all the way to the point to where you're about to cross the line to where it's almost awkward that you're appreciating them that much, and then double it, and that's about how much you should really be showing your appreciation for your core volunteers and your core leadership team, right? And I totally agree. I think that helps motivate. There's nothing more motivating than like I remember there were times where this was about a year ago when I was wanting to do that Compass retreat, and we ended up not being able to do it, but it was a ski trip all the way to Durango, and you came in and you're like, do it, just do it, and like I'm like, but it's not gonna be approved, and you're like, do it anyway, it's awesome, and just to me that was super motivating. I mean, that's just putting pure rocket fuel in my brain. So I totally know how you feel, and I agree when it comes to motivation. I had three more for you, and then I don't want to waste your time. It's Saturday. You have to preach tomorrow.
No, I get to preach tomorrow, Ryan.
You get to. You don't have to. You get to.
That's right. I get to preach tomorrow.
Lucky. Very good. So when it comes to here we go. I have like a list of questions. If you see me looking down, I'm pre-reading a question, but I have all these really good ones, and I don't know which one I want to do. No, we'll do this one by Mike. So Michael Anthony, he edited a book. Actually, I text you some stuff about it. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Everyone's going to bed.
Yeah.
All right.
You're okay.
I think I sent you. I was like, hey, this book's super boring, but it's you'll like it.
Yeah.
It's edited by a guy named Michael Anthony. He writes about the history of Christian education. Where do you see Christian education or discipleship in that next span? You're talking about the 135, 136. Where do you see Christian education in 6 years? Are life groups still gonna be around? Or is that really gonna be a thing? Is that a fad that will kind of bell curve down? Will we reinvent it? What does it look like to you?
Yeah, no, I think life group will always be around because it's relationships. I mean, the church met in houses long before we had buildings, and so I think it will always be there. I do think when I look at how this, as far as Christian education, Christian discipleship, and that will unfold in the future. Matter of fact, it may deal more with home ministry and that type of ministry. I could see us going back to where the church met once, twice a month in a large building, and the rest of the time in the homes. I don't know exactly how that looks. I know I've got a friend of mine. He's got what's called the Vine Ministry, and that's what they're doing right now. They've actually gone to band societies. Now he's teaching sound doctrine, but he's got a way of dispersing it throughout the homes, and they meet at homes in different areas of the city. Then they come together once a month. I don't know if it's the persecuted church, it will become the future. As far as education today, I tell you what I'm seeing is really media. People are attracted to media. We have superstar preachers today. I don't know why people listen to me because
you're good.
You got the Matt Chandlers around the world and things like that. So we kind of have the superstar, the megastar preacher, the Joel Osteens, regardless of doctrine. That's the trend today, and if that trend continues on, I know people are practicing. They're not necessarily practicing what they preach. Character isn't as important today as what it used to be. Integrity is not important for people as what it used to be. They don't care if the pastor fails. They just want to know if he's got some good words, some good advice, some good direction for them. And that's one of the trends that I see. So I kind of hate that because they're choosing gifting over character, whereas 10, 20 years ago, it was character over gifting.
Absolutely.
Well, man, if anything, we used to live in glass houses. It's not that way anymore.
Yeah.
So that tells me that people's values are not what they used to be. American values are not what they used to be. So looking in the future, I can see us really getting some superstar Billy Graham types that don't have the character, but have expertise in speaking and in influence, and probably even in some models, some type of models or systems or box church, if you will, and that they create.
Interesting.
So similar to back at one time, but of course we're well beyond that today. And I'll tell you another thing I've been looking at. Then there's a group of millennials that are going back to traditionalism, and
Yeah.
so they're really starting to look at denominations again. So I don't know if we're going to see that rise. I haven't seen the rise in the denominations yet from millennials, but I do know that there's an interest in
Interesting.
that. So for me, I don't know. When I look at 1, 3, and 6, I try to stay focused on what I do,
Yeah.
what I portray our vision and values, and for us, I can see us planting several other churches and reproducing who we are. I feel like that's what Jesus tells us to do. You know, and so I'm looking at ways to reproduce who we are, and I don't care if it's in the homes or if it's in the main building that meet day, Saturday night and Sunday mornings.
There you go. All right, so two questions left. Both of these you already know the answers for. I already know the answers for them. More, I just want it documented so I have it forever. And I think everyone needs to hear, at least this next one, everyone needs to hear this. I've carried it with me ever since he said it. When it comes to recruiting, what do you look for when it comes to recruiting other people? I know there's 4 E's you really like, and if you could kind of brush on them, if you can recall them, that'd be awesome. Hate to put you on the spot like that, but do you remember all 4?
Oh yeah, the 4 E's of ministry. I mean, the first thing we have to do is engage them, and so we have to find areas and ways of engagement. I mean, how are we going to engage the culture we serve?
Mm-hmm.
And so we find those areas, we find those venues, and that's what we do. The next thing we do is we encourage them, and I believe that to encourage someone means that you find yourself in their story, not them finding themselves in your story. So in other words, meaning that I'm going to take interest in them. What do you do? How do you do that? Why do you do that? Can you show me how to do that? Just things like that where you ask questions about them. That's an encouragement. The next part is really by that time, hopefully you're bringing them into an equipping part, and that equipping part is where, okay, now let me show you what we do, and in that's where you start turning the discipleship model. Hopefully they take interest in you and you move on. And then the 4th E would be empowerment. How do we empower them now in the one hope of their calling, Ephesians 4 model? So that would be the 4 E's of ministry. That's kind of what I would do. But I really believe that.
I can't believe you can explain it that well in like literally a minute. I think I was timing you, and that was about a minute. That's amazing.
Well, I believe in character over gifting, and so I look at a person's character.
Absolutely. All right, last question. Man, I think, when it comes to reading books, I think the only person that has you beat is my dad. And it's because he's retired and all he does all winter long is read books and wait until it's warm enough to get into his wood shop. And then he's in his wood shop and he reads about what to do with different types of wood. And that's all that man does is woodworking, golf, and read. And I'm convinced that's where you will be when you retire. You'll be somewhere on a huge ranch in New Mexico reading. And so, can you give me the last 5 books you gave your staff that, they don't have to be necessarily the last chronological, but the last 5 books that you gave your staff that any pastor needs to read? Any pastor.
All right, here we go. The Bait of Satan.
Okay.
John Bevere. You may not be a John Bevere fan, but I tell you, that is a good book. Another one is called Leadership and Self-Deception by Arbinger Institute. I would do The Deep and Wide. I think it's a great project by Andy Stanley. This is a great one. Heroes. This is a great devotional for young people, young children. It'd be good to take the staff through. I'll tell you why. Is because if you take the staff through that, it would help them, I think, disciple their children. Just do little devotions. People wonder how to do devotionals with their children. It's a good book to learn how to do that with. And then finally, the last one I'd probably do The Blessed Church by
Robert who?
Robert Morris.
Okay.
Yeah, The Blessed Church. It's a good one for church order, church structure. It's an easy read. It's got a lot of truths in there. I'll tell you another one. I might do the. No, I'm going to rule it out. Never mind.
Those 5. Sticking with 5.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Curtis, thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate you. Looking forward to.
Hugging a kiss for us, And congratulations, they're having a little boy.
Little boy. Yeah.
Oh,
We're having. I know. I'm excited. I couldn't be happier. We're doing sticky notes at this point, on like a cabinet in our kitchen of names, and there's some names up there that I really like that I did not think I'd ever consider. One of them I think you'd really like is Wyatt. Never thought I'd pick a name Wyatt. And the reason being is because Ryan means little king, and Jess keeps calling him a fighter. He's like, oh, he's a fighter. And Wyatt means little warrior. And so we were thinking, what about Wyatt as a middle name? And Jess goes, well, I think it's good enough to even be a first name. And so we don't know if it's going to make the final cut, but that's definitely been the most entertaining name that we've put out. And like, we both kind of went, huh, all right. So it's been an adventure for sure. And never underestimate a pregnant lady's craving for Thai food. That's what I've learned. And this whole thing is Thai food.
Mexican food.
Mexican food.
Good thing we live in Texas.
Good thing, right? Very, very cool. Well, hey, Curtis, looking forward to what you bring to the table tomorrow. I can't